One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Those are the words the world remembers as we approach the 50th anniversary of the incredible moon landing.
And of course, our own Parkes, the country town here in New South Wales, was right at the centre of it. Joining us from New York is Sarah Blake, who is News Corp's Australia's US correspondent. Good morning, Sarah. How are you? A major anniversary coming up in just a matter of weeks.
That's right, yes. It's a very exciting time in space exploration at the moment, not only as we look back 50 years to that momentous Apollo 11 expedition, but also looking forward. There's just so much happening in this area. So it's a pretty incredible time, and we're very lucky to be reporting on it all. News Corp's got a lot of coverage coming up in the next few weeks where we're going to be celebrating Space Month, but it's kicking off today with a fantastic commemorative glossy magazine that you can buy with your paper.
It certainly looks good there, Sarah. What else is going to be happening in terms of marking this special occasion?
I think we can sort of expect pretty much round-the-clock coverage of what's happening in the next few weeks. On the day itself, that's the July 20, there will be a host of events at the two NASA headquarters, and the astronauts, the remaining surviving astronauts from Apollo 11, Buzz Aldrin and Mike Collins, have said that they're going to be involved in those as well. So there's a lot coming up.
Now, he's not mentioned very often, is he, Michael Collins? It's always, obviously, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, but why is he so pivotal in this whole yarn?
Yeah, it was really interesting for me to actually profile Michael Collins because he's not a household name like Buzz and Neil Armstrong are, but his role was just as important. He remained in the command module while Buzz and Neil spent 21 and a half hours outside in the lunar module and on the moon. And so he was the only link between them and with Earth, with mission control on Earth. And during that 21 hours, 30 times the moon orbited, and for 47 minutes of each of those orbits, he was the most remote person in the universe. There was him on one side of the moon, Buzz and Neil on the other, and then Earth on the other side. So he has a really interesting story to tell.
Yeah, that's a real lost in space kind of moment.
It really
that one,
is.
isn't it?
And you did mention before, Sarah, and we saw on screen the magazine article that we can see in the Daily Telegraph, the Herald Sun, and also the Advertiser in Adelaide. What more can you tell us about this? There we go, one giant leap.
Oh, yeah, look, it really does just tell the best stories of not only that mission. So we learn some new things you maybe didn't know about Neil Armstrong. He was a very kind of secretive character. He didn't really like to speak publicly very much. So he's always been a really intriguing, although one of the world's most well-known people, you know, his actual who he was. He's always sort of had kept himself quite to himself. And we learn a lot about Buzz Aldrin as well. And Buzz had some troubles after the mission. And I think even Michael Collins has spoken about the fact that he, not being that household name, it sort of had reduced a bit of the pressure on him. These guys were the biggest thing happening in 1969. They toured the world afterwards. Everybody knew who they were. And I think a lot of that public focus and pressure, it actually didn't do that many favours to someone like Buzz Aldrin. So they're very compelling stories about those guys. But there's also a great interview with Andy Thomas, the first Australian NASA astronaut, and he remains a humble and very interesting character as well.
Yeah, I remember seeing a play a few years ago. It was called Buzz, and it was all about Buzz Aldrin, who was the sort of the second man. So Neil Armstrong was up the front. So, yeah, a very interesting story, all three men, and we look forward to what happens over the next week or so.